The Exorcism of Devereaux. Chapter 17. No Church in the Wild. Detective Frank Kennelly lit his third cigarette of the night, the ember a red pupil inside the bullseye of 2:13 a.m. The bullpen was almost empty, just fluorescents buzzing like cheap guardians and the hum of a soda machine that never slept. Paper made its dry little sounds when he touched it. Photos, coroner summaries, patrol narratives, thin graves spread across his desk. He read them again because he couldn't stand to close them. Victim 1, male, unhoused, found curled by the riverfront riprap, eyes raked wide, mouth arrested in a silent scream. Tox screen clean, no defensive wounds, a small thing that wasn't small, an upside-down cross cut into the skin of his forehead, precise and shallow, like a signature that wanted to be polite. Victim 2, a local antiques dealer collapsed behind his counter, nails split and bleeding where they'd clawed at lacquer. Cause of death, inconclusive, same neat, inverted cross scored into his forehead. Not ritualistic flourish, more like inventory mark. Victim 3. This morning, a woman on a front stair landing, neck broken at a bad angle nobody's day deserved. Neighbors heard a thud and found nothing to do but scream. Again, the upside-down cross carved at the forehead, tidy as a stamp. 3 in 2 weeks. Geography like a spreading bruise. Kennelly ground smoke out of his lungs and let the aftertaste argue with the stale coffee. He didn't believe in coincidence. He didn't believe in much anymore. Once there had been a church attached to his Sundays, a pew that remembered the weight of him, a wife who crossed herself out of reflex and kissed him with the same mouth she used for prayer. Then a winter night, a pledge to God, spoken on a hospital bench, and the machine that said no without words. The pew had kept the shape of him after that, but he hadn't gone back to fill it. The phone on his desk ran an old echo in his head. Bishop Maxwell, 2 days ago, voice tight and dry. Vandalism at St. Clement's, painted symbols, upside-down cross, not kids. Kennelly had said the right cop things. We'll look, send me stills, and hung up knowing the feeling of a cold glove settling over a town. He filed it under unwanted intersections. Now the bodies lined up and pointed back to the call. He slid photos aside and woke the monitor. Grain burst across the screen like it was snowing indoors. External drive, labeled in a steady hand. St. Clement's, SEC cam dump. The footage had been couriered over from a friend of the church, John Sampson, who knew how to pull tapes faster than facilities. Kennelly respected efficiency that didn't brag. Timeline scrub, midnight to 4. A square of the church's front steps in bad grayscale. A lamppost halo, leaking into frame like a cheap miracle. There, motion. A figure smudged into the corner, hood up, one shoulder tilted like a question mark. The camera choked on darkness and compression artifacts until the person was more suggestion than subject, arms moving in tight strokes, painting across the wooden church door with a confidence that read like practice. A pause. The figure tilted their head as if admiring their work, then gone, melted back into the street's spine. He stepped through frame by frame, jaw working on a memory that wasn't there. No face, no height he trusted, not even a reliable gait. Every third frame seemed to invent a new posture. But it didn't matter. He could feel the overlap, the vandal who marked a church with an upside-down cross, and a killer who signed 3 foreheads the same way. Kennelly leaned back until the chair complained. He stared at the ceiling tile's nicotine map, at the seams where cheap squares met their limits. The precinct's night air tasted of dust and disinfectant, the way old sanctuaries did after everyone left, and the candles gave up. He turned the monitor volume up for no good reason. Somewhere in the audio hash, an insect hum of the city rubbed against the speaker cone. He imagined it as breath under a door. "You're in there," he told the noise without moving his mouth. "And you think you're clever?" He dragged an empty legal pad close and drew a crooked axis. Motive, running horizontal. Access, running vertical. He started pinning ghosts. Symbol, inverted cross, church adjacency. Not a kid's prank. Wrong tool, too neat. Selection, vagrant, shop owner, suburban woman, no single demographic. Message over victim type. Time, late, early, opportunistic. Knows vacancies in the city's rhythm. Scene hygiene, light touch, little transfer, no prints, one person, practiced. He put the pen down and flexed the ache from his fingers. That old, petty part of him, the part that would have stayed for the last hymn, wanted this to be purely human. No devils, no destiny. Humans were cruel enough, inventive enough, and they liked to be seen. You just had to pick the right angle to catch their reflection. The folder of stills from St. Clement's sat where he could reach it. He flipped it open. Photos of the door, glossy with the dried black paint of the inverted cross. Brushstrokes tidy. Cheap bristles shed in the curve like eyelashes. The bishop had sent a note with the prints. Formal, agitated, desecration. That was the word he'd used on the phone, and the word had landed like an old liturgy Kennelly had sworn off but still knew by heart. He brought up a new window, city cameras near the church, the florist's canopy feed, traffic poles. If the vandal had been a ghost to St. Clement's lens, maybe some retail eye had a better prayer life. He kicked off a request to IT to scrub a grid of hours for a small, hooded nothing, moving with purpose. He attached a still of the painted door as a reference and typed inverted cross in the subject line, without liking his own hands for doing it. The clock said 2:41 now. He stubbed the cigarette into a paper cup whose logo had outlived the coffee. Outside the windows, the town wore its late hour like a bruise that preferred dim light. He paged through autopsy photos again, careful not to let his eyes skate. The neatness of the cut, centered, the line just wrong way, enough to feel like a dare. The hands that did that weren't shaking. The hands that did that believed something. Maybe they believed in God with a sneer. Maybe they believed in the absence of one. Either way, belief organized them. He felt the old muscle twitch, the one that used to lift him to stand for a hymn, and let it go. Faith had been a room he left. Investigation was the only liturgy he could still say without tasting metal. He opened a new case note and wrote, "Working theory. The person who defaced St. Clement's door is the same person marking victims. Connection to the church probable. Past employment, volunteer, vendor, parishioner, or enemy who knows the layout and rhythms. Symbol used points to theological fixation or deliberate misdirection. Prior contact with clergy likely. Bishop Maxwell call days ago. Build list. Cross-check maintenance logs, outreach rosters, former staff. Pull phone dumps around incidents. Find the face behind the blur." He saved it, because saving something meant the night hadn't stolen it. Then he killed the monitor and let the office go dark enough to be honest. "All right," he told the quiet. "Let's pray the hard way." The vending machine sighed. Somewhere down the hall, a copier woke and forgot why. Kennelly put his coat on, not because he was cold, but because leaving meant he'd done what he could for the dead, without pretending he could do more. Outside, the parking lot light whistled its lonely frequency. The detective lit another cigarette and walked into it like penance. He did not look up. He already knew who wasn't listening.